Hey Rachel.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yo.
We just started talking about like random ideas in quarantine. Tim was like talking us through a dog idea, which was good. We are now live with the first episode of Business Building with Bejay.
We are live. Quarantine radio.
Quarantine radio, let's go!
Flash time.
Thanks for everyone that's tuned in so far. I see the attendees that have started to come in. Thank you to the panelists that have joined today. By way of introduction, I'm Bejay Mulenga. I started this series as over the last 10 years. I've been privy to loads of amazing accelerators, really awesome entrepreneurial relationships. The people that we have here on the session are people I am a fan of, even if I don't talk to them all the time, but I really rate how they run their business and how they go about being leaders. The reason I wanted to do this first session and have these three individuals in particular with me today was I've taken note on a couple of things that they're doing as individuals and also as a company to pivot and also to remain true to their standards during this time period. This panel is made where we're all on video, but everyone that's attending, if you want to speak or you want to put a question, there is a Q&A function available that you can click on your phone or your desktop to send a question in and we will answer it. You can also raise your hand if you really want to pop up on video at a certain point, and Dami here on the back end will kind of go and make that happen. I sometimes hate how panels are introduced and getting the host to kind of tell people's story for themselves. So in the pre-chat I just had with everyone, I kind of wanted them to kind of talk about what they're up to at the moment and how 2020 plans have potentially changed. So should we start with Tim, introduce yourself, and then we go around and answer that question. How has your 2020 plans changed and what are you up to today?
Cool. Hi everyone, I'm Tim. I'm the CEO of Fanbytes. What we do is we help the world's biggest brands to reach Gen Z on social media. In terms of how our plans have changed, so it's been interesting because at the start of this all, when we had to all work from home, like as a business, so much of our stuff comes from the creativity that we have together, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be a pain. And actually, in the last 2 months, pretty much our like revenue has just like shot up, and I think it's because we basically decided to go more with just being a bit more of like an expert-led business. So we started providing insights and expertise on how brands can navigate this new world, rather than going, people are going to reduce their advertising spend. So therefore, it's like, therefore let's cut people off. In our industry, a lot of people have put people on a furlough, etc. But I think it's because they're not thinking intelligently enough about where are the new opportunities, where are the new verticals, how do you position yourself as an expert, and that has been the approach we've taken to kind of like the new world we find ourselves in. If anyone goes on my LinkedIn, you see yesterday we put out a piece like Gen Z and the coronavirus, and I think that's now like 6,000 views. So many people have actually downloaded and said this is super interesting. So I think like our major pivot was like going with this expert-led, insight-led approach, which we didn't think we'd need to do that much, but now we've just over-indexed on it and it works quite well.
Amazing. Dr. Anne-Marie?
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Anne-Marie. I run an organization called Stemettes. It's a non-profit, and we work with girls and young women and non-binary young people to encourage them into technical fields. So this time last year, the business model or the way we ran things was we run longer programs and interventions that last anywhere from a week to a year. We ran events that were kind of in-person events. That was what we were most well known for. They were hackathons, so kind of coding events. We ran panels, we ran meetups, we ran school trips, all those kinds of stuff. And then our kind of third pillar was our content platform. So we had an online community, we have an online advice column, we do a lot on Twitter and across different platforms. And kind of just before lockdown, I told the team all to work from home until the next event that was going to be happening in Birmingham. And working from home was something that was quite normal for us, I guess, maybe not to this extent, but we were kind of fairly mobile, not that office bound. And then when just as lockdown was announced, we decided to move all our events, well, actually to create a new load of events to run online. So we're in week 7 now of that kind of new normal. And that's been really cool. We've got sponsors that have pivoted with us. We've got other ones that we're taking on now in this kind of new normal, and we're focusing a lot more on content. And that was the kind of initial shock. And then phase 2 is going to be us now taking all our programs online. So our mentoring programs, our like learning academies, kind of courses that we normally run in person are going online. Our clubs are all going online as well. And I was just saying to Bejay and the other panelists that there's kind of I don't know how many of you saw the article that came out yesterday talking about how lockdown might be lifted across like seven different types of work. Basically, we've made the decision overnight that we're not going to run any physical events until at the very earliest January 2021. So we've kind of pivoted in quite a big way, which maybe we'll come onto or maybe not. But we're now going to be running festivals online. We're going to be having monthly passes for people to join our online events. And we're going to be working with partners in a really different way to be able to do that. So yes, it's kind of exciting, kind of interesting, playing with different tools and different platforms and kind of learning as we go. It's been a lot of learning. But yeah, it's different. It's the new normal, like everyone's saying. So that's what Stemettes, that's what the life of Stemettes is. The other thing to add is that we have just had a charity approved by the Charity Commission. So I'm laughing because who knows how this is going to work. But we're going to start fundraising as a charity from June onwards, which is going to be a whole new kettle of fish.
Wow.
That's awesome. And Rachael?
Hey guys, so I'm Rachael. I'm co-founding director at Afrocenchix. So we formulate and manufacture natural hair care products for Afro and curly hair. And Afrocenchix started, oh gosh, this is our 10th year, and we were actually planning a really big birthday party, which for obvious reasons is now not going to happen, but we will be celebrating 10 years this year. And it's been quite a ride. We started off because Joycelyn and I met at university. We both suffered from traction alopecia, from relaxer from a very young age, from weave, from all sorts of problems. We both had, issues with just liking our hair in its natural state and knowing how to look after it. On top of that, I'm allergic to everything. So even though I was a product junkie, I was just having all these allergic reactions. I had scabs and scars and issues all over my scalp, all over my neck. It was a hot mess. And Joycelyn used to relax my hair for me. Then she said she's not going to do that anymore. And I was in quite a quandary.
Oh, you're back.
Very long story short, me and Joycelyn got together, hit the library, started researching what the best oils are. She had given me a little blend she made, and I tried to get her to start a business. She said no, so I kind of dragged her and we did it together. Set up the most basic website of life, but people loved it. People were, all over the website. People were emailing us. We realized, well, we need to take this seriously because now we've suddenly got customers and they're saying that they only want to use our stuff and they're requesting more things, but we don't have those things. So 10 years later, we've, raised angel investment, raised a bit of VC investment. We've become the first brand for Afro and curly hair to launch in Whole Foods UK and then in Holland and Barrett earlier this year. And we've now got 8 people on payroll. So we've grown a lot from just me and Joycelyn in our university halls mixing our products. We've overcome a lot of barriers to get here. And this was going to be a really big year for us. And then coronavirus hit. And, I don't really complain about the struggles we've had because of it, especially when so many people are grieving. It's been really challenging for so many. So me and my husband, we're pretty sure we had coronavirus in like the first week. We're in the hotspot of coronavirus. So the borough that has the most cases. And the borough that has the second most cases is where my husband works. He's a primary school teacher. So we think that that's probably where it came home from. So we were sick, we got over it. I no longer feel like I'm drowning when I just breathe. So that's great. So physically, it's been, you know, a stress for a lot of us, whether we've lost someone or we know someone who's lost someone, or whether we've contracted the virus ourselves. It's been crazy. But then on top of that, if you're a business owner, change has become the name of the game. So everything's about transformation. Everything's about survival. It's no longer growth, growth, growth. It's now, okay, are we going to be able to meet payroll every month? Are we going to be able to, like, you know, just break even? So that was the attitude we went in with. But actually, this has ended up being really good for us. So we lost quite a lot. So I can talk about this later. But in brief, we were about to roll out in 2 major retailers in around 300 stores in the UK. We were going to release a new product. We were going to, you know, have this big 10th birthday party. There were so many things that we had planned for this quarter and for this year in general that we had to put on hold. But people have been incredible. Our customers have been super supportive, and we weren't even expecting that. We thought, okay, let's just turn it around. We've got a huge audience. We've got a really engaged mailing list. We've got a community. So let's just serve our community. Let's forget about sales. Obviously, we exist as a company to help everyone to find safe, effective products for their hair. And we can still do that, but let's just stop talking about our products and let's talk about our community. Let's talk about their businesses. Let's talk about their needs and change everything to being completely problem-led and completely helpful. We try and be helpful anyway, but we switched it around, and we didn't expect it to lead to an explosion in sales. But I'll just say that our new problem is stock because we sold more in the month just gone than we had projected to sell in the whole quarter. And yeah, now we've got a different set of problems, but good problems. So that's us.
Amazing, amazing. So in the spirit of transparency, moving, helping each other grow, what did we lose? So do you want to, you're about to go in, Rachel, with that, so maybe we'll start with you. What did we lose, and how have you navigated that?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick off. We lost quite a bit. So we were going to have an intern start, and we were going to have, well, actually, we started a new social media and content person, and she is fantastic, but we lost a lot of sleep over that decision because you're already thinking, okay, I've got this many people on payroll, this much cash in the bank. How many months can we pay everyone if sales stop? And we did have a period when the virus, when the lockdown was first announced and everyone was talking about the virus, people just stopped buying hair products, which we understood. And we didn't even want to tell people to buy hair products because people are worried about, you know, is there going to be enough food in my house? And yes, shampoo, conditioner, and moisturizer is very important, but you need to feed your kids and you need your toilet roll, right? That's going to be the priority. So we were not marketing at all, but we saw the decline first. We saw sales drop. And then we had this moment where we thought, okay, we found this fantastic person for our social media role. We've been looking for this person for so long. We don't want to let her get away. We promised her this is when the thing's going to start. And we just took a chance and started. And we're so glad we did because she's fantastic at engaging with the community, creating really useful content. She has just been like a machine, just banging out content to do. Like, if you are a key worker, if you're a doctor and you're like, oh, I've got afro hair, need to go to work, how do I keep my hair clean but also make sure it stays soft and hydrated? She's got a blog post for you. If you're working from home and you're like worried about my productivity, she's written content for you. If you're just thinking, oh, what kind of work setup will work for me, or what kind of hairstyles work for me to get some webcam glam, she's got content for you. And she's only been with us a month and a half. So that's like been a win, but there have been so many challenges. And there was, I'm sure you guys can relate just to the anxiety that comes with having to make so many decisions in a short period of time with so little information to go on. So for me and Joyce, and it has been quite stressful, but we've just been talking about it. So when sales dropped, we did think, okay, we had to start talking about the sacrifices we would make. We had to start having the conversations about, okay, if we have to cut our pay, how little can we live on? We're not on big salaries to begin with, but it's very much got to pay our team first. And I think that the fact that we've been thinking about our community, our team, looking after everyone else, that's been great because everyone's looked after us. We obviously have had to postpone and possibly lose some big contracts in terms of the retail contracts. There was a manufacturing partner we were about to start working with, and we still intend to, but that's been pushed, which brings its own complications, right? because everyone's chasing you for invoices, you're chasing everyone for invoices. It's just a strange world to be in. So for us, the major things have been, we didn't roll out into 300 stores across the UK. We didn't get to onboard our intern. We didn't get to do that huge manufacturing run with the factory we partnered with. And we didn't get to launch our new product, which would have been launching now. We planned a whole campaign. Who knows what's going to happen? But, you know, we're healthy and well. So we just have to thank God for that.
Excellent. Love that. Anne-Marie, what did we lose and learn?
Gosh, we've lost physical events. I miss, I don't know, like, I mean, I don't want to live I was joking before, I don't want to live with my team. I miss my team, which I was doing anyway, because I'm always all over the place. But I think I miss actually just being there with the girls, with them, like things happening, basically them discovering new things. So so we've missed that, and that sense of the easier sense of community that you can get from physical events. In terms of sales and business wise, I think the main thing that we've lost is the revenue we would have got from events that were happening now. So we get paid in advance for our events. So there's a whole load that we basically had to just move to reserves and say, we'll untap that when events are back on the cards. And I guess we lost momentum in terms of now we're selling something completely different to new and existing customers, because what they want, you know, doesn't exist. It's really funny, just as we've been on here and emails come into the main inbox for someone that wants to partner up with us for an event, and they're talking about school kids coming into the offices, and it's all that stuff where I'm like, I mean, that's the revenue that I won't see until the end of our financial year, which is beginning of next year. So I think we've lost out on that, but we've gained so much more. I think the only other thing that I think I've ended up losing is time. So I think, just like Rachael was saying just then, like there's so many decisions that you have to make. We're constantly pivoting. Like, it's like, I'm going to pivot to this, I'm going to pivot to that. Overnight, the time I would have spent today doing something different, but now I've got to spend time now architecting what happens in Q3 for us, what's going to happen in Q4. And normally for us, this is exam season, so we actually don't run that much at this time of year. So this is our time to write up docs, review policies, you know, make sure that we've got the house in order. So that's mostly it really at the moment. Touch wood, not too much funding has been lost.
That's good. Tim?
I'll just jot down some notes on this actually. What have we lost? I think, yeah, like in the short term, there were a few things. Like, we had a few brands. We had a travel brand who were just like, yeah, we can't do anything else. Like, cool, that's fine. Comparatively, we didn't lose that much because we weren't that exposed into those particular industries, like sports, travel, etc. I would say that in terms of, I'll say one of the things we lost, I'd say, would just be general momentum. So if you imagine that things are swinging this way, you may go like a bit more this way and then you go up. And it's actually funny because I think a lot of people kind of underestimate the impact of just like momentum in a business where things are going well, pour more fire on it. There were a few events which got cancelled, i.e. like marketing events we were meant to speak at. They got pushed online, but I don't know, it's not really the same, is it? But potentially can revisit that. In terms of things we learned, so actually, like, I think about 2 weeks when we got into lockdown, I actually had coronavirus, which was like kind of like random, and not a lot of people in the team knew, and I don't actually think a lot of people in the team know now. So
I mean, some of your team are on the chat right now.
Now they know.
But it's super funny, right? Because I did, and like, I had it, and basically like felt bad on Tuesday, felt bad on Wednesday, Thursday I was better, Friday I was better, Sunday I was fine. But I remember that I was like, oh man, that's going to be so annoying. because I'm not going to be there, etc. But then what I ended up doing was kind of like giving the reins to some of the key people in the team. So like to the marketing team, just saying, you know what, like go ahead and run with it. And especially to the sales team, like go ahead and run with it. And I think that worked exceptionally well. And what it taught me so far was just the fact that in most cases, you think you should be there, but actually you really shouldn't. And I think that's quite a valuable thing that I learned. Other thing I learned was just the importance of just like, at the end of the day, like, I think we've actually increased our marketing spend during this period, which is kind of counterintuitive to everything. There is this old saying that you have to zig when other people are zagging. And I find that to be one of the most important things, especially when running business, because like people are reducing their marketing spend as like suppliers, but we are going even deeper on it. Because we realize that there's currently a lot of like underpriced real estate basically online. And if we can capture people now, then we can actually take them on the journey with us. So for example, we currently have our like cost per lead, cost per acquisition to be significantly lower because like Facebook ad cost and just like there's generally more space for us to talk about it. And then we also changed a bit of our narrative. So as we were speaking about before this thing actually started, we launched something called the Byte House. We got like 6 TikTokers to come into a house and create content. This was devised before like Corona happened. But then as it was happening, I was like, okay, should we still do it? They were down for it. And we had already kind of like moved in a bit before. And when that happened, I was like, we may possibly never have an opportunity like this where you can go and say, we've got 6 people in a house when everyone is meant to be social distancing. And just going with that narrative to press has been insane. Like we've been featured pretty much everywhere, BBC, The Times. I think this week we're going to end up on This Morning. Like we have people asking to take it as a TV show. So we had to like adapt our entire narrative, which I must admit was probably the most like stressful bit, was trying to adapt the narrative of the business to say like, I know the focus is sales, I know is this, and I know we have these plans, but how can we layer on top of it this whole like, this is what it means in the context of coronavirus. So more guides, more videos about what brands can do in this new age, changing how we did this whole TikTok house thing to actually be like, this is how it fits within the context of coronavirus and stuff. So that's where the opportunities were. But then short term, it was more like, yeah, we lost a few deals, etc. But I think because we'd always been not prepared, but because we'd always led with marketing and we'd always kind of thought the more we can just get a lot of people into our world, the better we will be. We didn't actually get hit as much because we kind of went with our whole thing is just build the community first, and then over time they would then convert. And that's worked so far.
Awesome. Naturally, with what you lose, there's what did you gain, what did you win? We spoke about so far content. We spoke about new business models being created. On a top level or on a deep level, however you guys want to answer it, what would you guys say that you guys have won? Maybe I'll start. So obviously everyone attending or those who have seen it, I wrote a big blog article on my business and what we do. A lot of the stuff we were doing was predicated on face-to-face delivery of live events, and then also doing content at live events for clients. We obviously put out the number there, which was actually a bit more bigger. It was actually around 350. But the opportunity in this time period has actually enabled us to accelerate some of the stuff that, almost like what Anne-Marie was saying, around what can we do to teach and help others learn, but from a digital perspective, but keep a quality about what we're doing. And the last couple of weeks, I've personally noticed so many Zooms, so many workshops. So there has to be a quality barrier in doing what you do. So starting a series like this is quite an important part for our business to kind of test what a community looks like and what happens after Zoom. There are really awesome platforms that exist, like Mighty Networks, that enable you to have your own personal app for your community. So I think that's the approach we're going to take. But funnily enough, I've kind of ended up in the food business heavily in the last 6, 8, 7 weeks, which anyone that knows me from Supa days, which is my first business 10 years ago, is kind of where I started. And we're currently fast tracking with Deliveroo to launch a food festival and wellness festival in the middle of June. So that's what's keeping my brain preoccupied. And again, I get to do content, I get to work with content creators, I get to do an element of teaching through the live talks that's going to happen in the festival. So we're not too far away from what we do as a brand, but it is still far away and different in terms of what we sell every day to brands. So yeah, open floor to all the panelists. How has your business model changed? What have you gained? There's elements you've kind of shared with us so far, but what have you learned and what have you gained, and how is that informing your business planning for the future? Anyone want to take it first? Maybe Rachel?
Sure, happy to go. So what have we learned? What have we gained? So our gains are definitely connected to our losses. So the biggest learning for us has actually been, and we kind of knew this, but it just doubled down the lesson. The biggest thing we've learned is community is everything. It's the most important thing, right? So as a brand, you are only, your lifeblood is the value that you give to your community, the value that actually people gain specifically from you. That's all you have, right? So I know about Stemettes because anytime I spoke to anyone about learning to code when I was first like brushing up and developing like my Java skills, everyone was telling me Stemettes, Anne-Marie, go to Stemettes, go to Anne-Marie. And then I became a bit of a stan and I was looking at everything she was doing, and it was just value, right? It wasn't, oh, we are so great. They didn't have to say they were so great. It was just, did you know this? Here's this fact. Here's this resource. And that's why the community loves Stemettes, right? Because of the value that Anne-Marie creates. Exactly the same with Fanbytes, right? So Timothy is known for being the expert on Gen Z, okay? If you want to know anything about how to connect with your younger siblings generation, you go to Timothy. So even when me and Joyson were thinking about our different customer segments, and we thought, okay, when we started this, we were in university and we were really down with the kids and in touch, and we knew how to like make things go viral. Now, you know, we're getting kind of great. Well, I've got purple hair right now, but you know what I mean, right? We're getting a bit older. We're not as in touch as we used to be. Like, I don't know any of the songs on the radio these days. I'm such a granny. And I'm okay with that. But if I need to know how to get in touch with Gen Z, I need to speak to Timothy. I need to go to Fanbytes. And Timothy's actually even sat with me and Joyson and like spent an hour just talking about, you know, what he's learned about that generation, other things in business. So the reason that companies like Fanbytes, companies like Stemettes are here to stay is because of the value that they create for their communities. It's the same with Afrocenchix, right? Our products are wonderful, and obviously I think they're the best because we make them. These hands, our team's hands, make the products, label the products, do everything. But it's not just products, right? It's about the education that we give to our community, and that's what they really like. So I'm so proud of my team for the content they create. All of the content is about solving genuine problems for the community. And one thing we've learned is that that is priceless. So we knew that was valuable, but we wouldn't have put it up because it's so intangible, right? It's not something you can put on a balance sheet. It's not something you think would go towards a company valuation. But now that we're seeing major retailers coming to us and asking us to put our products because we're the names that the influencers are talking about, or they're going into, you know, these official meetings and people are like, oh, you're trying to break into black hair, why don't you have Afrocenchix? The fact that that's happening is because of our community. It's because of people dropping lines. And at first, I think we got a bit overexcited by some of these brand names. And I'm going to be a bit vulnerable. It's embarrassing to say it, right? But when the Whole Foods deal happened, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like we have a legitimate business now because Whole Foods, and that like stamp of approval from a well-known and trusted brand, it can do some things to your head. But now, that was what, like 3 years ago. So I guess being a bit older and wiser, when brands are approaching us, even during this kind of quarantine time, we're actually turning down a lot of retail orders, because if we don't have our stock is, we've got some problems right now. We're actually hiring. So if you know anyone who wants to be a production assistant, we do social distance and it's all very safe. If you go on our Instagram, you can see in our highlights, even going back like 189 weeks, we have always been like at the top when it comes to hygiene. So it's very, very safe. But essentially we are cranking up production because our products are selling like faster than ever. We've never sold this fast before. We're just having some mad days. And in that, we're realizing that, okay, if we know that actually the next batch of conditioner is sold before it's made, are we going to send it straight to our community, or are we going to put it in the hands of a bigger brand that's maybe more powerful, but they don't have the connection to the community that we have, and they might sell it in a different way? So we will never sell someone a product they don't need. That's why we've launched like a website quiz, which launching in quarantine, we thought this is going to be a flop, but let's just like put it out there, see what we can learn, get like 100 responses, we'll tweak it and we'll do a big launch after quarantine. We've got like 3,000 responses without any promotion. So with things like that, we can use technology to link up the right products with the right people, because the products actually solve their problems. Not all retailers do that, right? So we're not going to go into any and every store just to sell some products, just to make some money. Thank you, Demalola, for sharing our ad. But yeah, so one big lesson has been that you really need to think about, okay, what is the value that you give to your community? Who is your community? And keep that at the center of everything you do, because accolades and awards and big brands wanting to work with you, it can kind of blind your vision sometimes, and you don't even realize that it's doing that. You think, oh, this is great, this is what the community want. And I'm an overthinker, I'm very analytical, and that is usually a good thing. It usually leads to strategic thinking, but sometimes it leads to me kind of being excited about something and then thinking myself into believing it's the best thing for the brand at the time. If I name some of the businesses that we are turning down, you guys will probably think I'm crazy, but I've learned that you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, right? We know that anyway, but no one could have guessed everyone in the world is going to be locked in their house in a, because there's a global pandemic. Like, no one would have been able to guess that Trump is going to be on TV telling people to drink disinfectant. Maybe you would have guessed that, but that aside, right? These are not things that we could have seen coming. So if you're gonna trust other people and like bend to what other people tell you is going to happen and listen to people who think they know the future, you're going to end up in a mess. The biggest thing for us has been, think about the value you give to your community, because that shouldn't change. So for us, it's making sure that people have access to safe, effective products. We can still do that, right? If it was something else, if it was like, oh, let's put all of our resources into really promoting that we're, in this Holland & Barrett store up in Birmingham, because it's like the clean and conscious store and it's really excited, or let's put all of our resources into putting people in Whole Foods to promote the fact we're there, it would have been more about like, it would have been a different thing. I'll just put it that way. So for us, the fact that we focused on content, we focused on videos, blog posts, creating like even webinars. We've gone online and done some exclusive webinars for our email community as well. And we've learned that it's all about that connection to the community. And if your community is important, you need to make sure you can access them without other people standing between you and the community. So as much as like we love social media, we're all over social media, it's not about just getting followers. It's about getting those followers onto your mailing list so that you can communicate with them if anything happens to your account. So the big lesson has been double down on creating value for your community and be genuinely appreciative of them, because everything you have is just because of the community who lifts you up.
Powerful. Any W's that anyone else wants to share? I'll move on to another set of questions.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so I think I mentioned a few of them there about the whole like buy a house thing, but even that, like, we've been, so an L, which I guess turned to a W and is kind of in the middle right now, a D, like a draw right now or something like that. So we started off, so one of the things about like 6 months ago, I was speaking to Flo, who I'm sure a lot of people know here, about like building like this e-com brand, which would be like for Gen Z by Gen Z, led by TikTok stars. And it's interesting because e-com is probably one of the verticals right now we're seeing this massive growth. And so we said we'll start off like a lip gloss line, and it's working well. Like, we have these mixed race twins that we manage in one of the division of our business. They have like 1.2 million fans on TikTok. The whole idea was we'll build a brand, from these twins. It'll be like a lip gloss brand, etc. The L was that a lot of the products were coming from places who just couldn't send us the products. So it was like, I remember being on the phone to her a lot, like, what the f is going on? Like, come on, just send the, like, what's going on? But now, the W is kind of goes back to the earlier point you made, is that like, we can almost, like, again, goes back to this narrative. We can now go with this idea of, well, like, because e-com is a booming thing right now during this period, we're building a brand which is almost like at the perfect time to build a brand when e-com is booming even more, and TikTok as a platform, for example, is booming even more. So now you have the convergence of these two things. So I think that changed definitely our business model. In terms of our marketing that we've done, goes back to the point that was mentioned earlier. I think doing so much marketing, which is not just focused on the sell, but almost like getting people's emails, getting people's trust, getting people's, just getting people into our world has been one of the biggest things we have been doing. Like, I often have conversations with a guy who leads our paid marketing, Seb, and I always go, and he's like, should we drive people to contact form and all that stuff? And I'm like, no, like, ignore all that, because if we build enough value now, like, people's budgets may be smaller now, but let's build a ton of value now and get their email address. And in doing that, we know they will end up coming through in like whatever 2-3 months, right? So that type of approach, I think, has been quite a W. But yeah, so I'll say for us is 3 things. Firstly, kind of really introducing things like e-com into our business model, and I'm very keen to see how that's gonna turn out. Really, and kind of going back to the whole house thing, like, now we've unlocked a new revenue opportunity because these guys are in the house, they're creating content. The revenue is brand sponsorships, but we're now introducing merchandise. So now we're not only depending on advertising revenue, we actually go in and saying, well, we also want consumer revenue. But the other thing is also, we're also now putting their shows on YouTube. So now we are earning YouTube ad revenue, which is not dependent on like selling stuff, because we just make money from the ads on YouTube. So kind of like that difference in the business model has been great. And then the second thing is definitely like a massive focus on just like email. Like, it is probably the most valuable thing, regardless of what type of brand you are. As Rachael mentioned, like with e-com, but as an agency business, as a SaaS business, like literally any business you have now, like if you are running one now, the number one thing I would say is like, figure out some way in which you can create some content which feeds into the times that we're in now, and then feed people to your email list. Because once you have the email, they will remember you as the brand that was there for them, and the brand who was like being actually like just being very what's the word I'm looking for, very sensible during a time like this. And then eventually you end up winning, not playing the game of sales. Like, one of our investors are the guys who own Boohoo and PLT, and they came under fire recently. And it's funny because when I saw it, I actually like messaged the CEO. I messaged like Samir, like, are you sure, bro? Because basically they were like trying to sell these like face masks or something like that, and but also Like the whole thing was just done really badly. It was like buy, and it's like, bro, this is not the time. So I think, yeah, like those two ways I'll say have been the kind of W's that we have seen throughout this whole period.
Awesome. Anne-Marie, do you want to add anything before I move on to the next question?
No, I think the other two have said it mostly. I think, yeah, like in short, I guess our win has been figuring out or being able to kind of use different parts of our offering to create new business models. So we've like reevaluated, we've had to kind of basically say, here's how much it is for an event, here's how much it is for an online event, and figure those kinds of stuff out. And a win has been that actually people are paying us the same as they pay for a physical event for online events and programs at the moment. And then, as Rachel said, like doubling down on what's the value that you can give. But I think for us, it's been, because we're dealing with children, it's also how can you keep them safe while you're doing all of that. So that's been the other thing that we've kind of rounded up on. We're going to put out another statement soon. But I think it's keeping value, staying in people's minds, and continuing to add to what's going on. I think we're a bit different though, because our revenue is not, we're B2B, I guess, rather than B2C. So, and they've all been panicking in a way that consumers haven't been panicking. So yeah, I don't know. We take all the wins, right? You do what you can do. You got to keep moving. That's essentially what it is. Keep moving. Don't stop. Like keep moving, keep testing, keep trying, and you'll get better. A win is that we're 7 weeks deep into these constant online events, and we're not making the mistakes that we made at the beginning. And some of these things, like we're older and we're wiser, right? So I think I've been telling everyone, our first event, it was such a shambles because we decided to do maths origami with 80 kids online. And it's like such a stupid thing. Like looking back now, it's like, who's crazy enough to do that? It's like, we were crazy enough to do that. And we've got these kids, and it was so funny. I was literally laughing live on the event. That's why we can't release the recording, because I was literally pissing myself laughing at having to tell these kids to fold this paper, and all of them just panicking in the chat.
Yeah.
So you keep going, keep learning. And, you know, as long as you're doing something and you're getting better, that's progress.
Awesome. Well, look, thanks for the W's, guys. Let's celebrate the W's. Look, we're going to move on to questions from the audience. Hey, look, we've got to bring Quarantine Radio to us, man. Sometimes we've got to make it fun for us.
You know what? I'm so not down with the kids. I probably shouldn't admit this, but I don't actually know what Quarantine Radio is. Everyone just keeps making this joke, and I'm like, okay, I get the reference because I've heard the jokes. It's like I miss the memes, and then I just see how people use memes, but I don't know what they actually mean. So Timothy, I think I need to know.
You don't need to know.
I probably don't actually. The friends that have been sending me it are the ones whose links I don't click and whose videos I don't download.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But if you ever want to go to Gander, you know, just youtube.com, you know, and you can find compilations over there. But right now, we're going to move into questions from the audience to wrap up the segment. There's loads of questions we've had in. I'm going to try to keep it short, 5 questions. So if one panelist picks the question, I think that's how we're going to get around to kind of answering a few of these. So the first question I'm going to choose is a bit of a tough one, but we'll start there. So a focus on authenticity and community are key themes for businesses that seem to be doing well in this difficult period. Do you think that because of this post-COVID, due to post-COVID period, will the quality and efficacy of businesses across the board increase? Or do you think the business landscape will be better post-COVID? Rachel, you're nodding your head. Do you want to take that, Tim?
I didn't. I was waiting for someone else to answer, but I can. Do I think the quality of businesses post-COVID will be better in terms of their authenticity and value? Yes, because I think, this is going to sound a bit cutthroat, but I think that it's survival of the fittest right now.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that a lot of businesses are going to die, and in some cases it will be really sad, and I'll be there supporting and rooting for those founders to either bring back the business or bring back something else. And I think in other cases the businesses will die because they weren't genuinely giving value to anyone, and there are businesses that just exist to have a business and not to solve a problem. So I'm a firm believer in purpose-driven business. I think that there needs to be a why behind what you do, right? You've all seen the Simon Sinek talks. Simon Sinek, start with why. And I think that's really important, right? So if you're genuinely solving a problem, you're bringing value to the world, I think the businesses are going to be better. And I think it's fantastic that so many companies are almost free to unashamedly be purpose and value driven, because sometimes, I mean, it's the kind of thing that it sounds fluffy, you know, it's not something you can count, it's not something you can put on your balance sheet. So people will often almost judge you for having a value. I remember one business advisor, I'm not going to name the institution because I'll bait them out, but this business advisor telling me and Joycelyn that we shouldn't be making products, we should run a charity. The exact words were, if you care so much about little black girls being comfortable with how they look, why don't you just make a charity or work with a charity or find some products out there that are good and sell those? And we're kind of like, well, firstly, I'm allergic to everything out there because it's full of toxic rubbish, but anyway, a lot of people see it as it's not legitimate if you're genuinely trying to solve a problem. It just has to be about money. But actually, I think this Corona time is going to show that the best businesses do both. The best businesses make a ton of money by solving genuine problems and adding value to the world. That's what I think. Obviously, there'll be some companies that do that and fall through the cracks and fail, but hopefully we can bring them back out with all the money that we'll make.
As Victoria just said in the comments, people will sidetrack you. And look at you now. All right, next question. Okay, I like this one. For each of you, please share which social media / online platform are the most valuable for your businesses and why.
All right, so I've got two, LinkedIn and Facebook. LinkedIn, because I think like if you're a business person, I think regardless of whether you're B2B or B2C, you should be aggressively like posting on LinkedIn. Like in the last week, I shared with my team, like in the last week, I just posted like twice a day, and we drove a ton of brands without us actually having to go on there. And LinkedIn, in terms of what you post, man, I would just post anything at all. I wouldn't even be necessary. Like sometimes you can be strategic about it. So as I mentioned yesterday, I posted this report we made about like Gen Z and the coronavirus. But sometimes it's just me like in this room with my phone and just be like, yeah, so today I think this is going to happen. Like after this call, I'm going to create a video about how like 3 ways that brands can use influencers now. It's going to be like a 3-4 minute video, subtitle it, post on LinkedIn. So I think that's huge.
Quick one. How do you, just for people that want that value, if they're going to move onto LinkedIn, obviously you're a beast on LinkedIn. Everyone in this chat is actually a beast on LinkedIn. Where do people go and get subtitles? That's like a quick gems people need. Do you spend 2 hours making it, or do you just spend half an hour?
Subtitling is not something you should be doing. There's a website called like rev.com, like rev.com. You can just go and someone subtitle it and send it within 24 hours. In my case, I have like a Filipino basically who I just like WhatsApp, and then he just like subtitles all. They're pretty cost effective, so I just do that. And then Facebook, because currently right now, well, there is pretty much no better advertising machine than Facebook, but also so if you want to understand Facebook is basically a game of like supply and demand. When there's high demand, the actual cost of everything goes up. Currently, so many brands, out of fear, out of blah, 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 are just like turning off their marketing. So now the actual cost to get a user or cost per click or cost per anything is now ridiculously low. I'm talking like 30% of the original cost. So now because of that, actually, if you want to get your message out there, you go on Facebook, you can start off from like £10 a day, target your audience. And I'd go again with creating a video. just create some video about your brand and just target that audience, you will get ridiculously good reach. And that will basically be the way that I approach it. I'll go LinkedIn and then Facebook, and that will stand you in a very good time for the long term.
Love that. I'm actually going to switch questions. I know that was asked for everyone, but for the sake of time, let's keep it short and snappy, which is good. Next question, Anne-Marie, if you can take this one. Business ideas that have been birthed over lockdown, do you think it's a good idea to activate it after lockdown is lifted, considering people might not have money to spend and struggle to get customers right now?
No, I'd say it depends on the business, but you've got a kind of captive audience in a lot of places now. So it's interesting, last question about social media platforms. I think I wouldn't choose one over the other. I guess we've got different audiences that we have on different platforms. There are ones that I know we get the most from that in terms of like interactions, but there are others I know that we get the most from in terms of revenue. So whatever business idea you have, like those people are somewhere, they're not spending their money on eating out, they're not spending their money on holidays, they're not spending their money on travel if they're a business. So catch them now. Now's the time to launch and say, okay, cool, let's get it going, let's make it happen. Now's the time to build the community around it. Now's the time to test the idea. So I'd say, they say in a recession, right? That's when most of the good business ideas kind of come to fruit, come to light. So get going, I think, is always my thing with any business. Now is almost always the best time, if not next week. Get going, do the do.
I'm going to come back to one of my questions, and then we're going to go back into the Q&A stuff. Question that I had that I spoke in the pre-chat with panelists was, there are mental frameworks that entrepreneurs have that enable them to make decisions. Either decisions to go after things or decisions to not go after things. I myself, I'm 6 businesses in, 3 have done well, 3 have failed. Before I make a decision on where we go next, I always like to go back to a lean canvas whenever I have a new idea. So lean canvas is free, it's all on one paper. Rather than going and making big business plans, if I've got an itch or something I want to pivot, I try to just put it all in one paper. And that's always been my trusted go-to advisor. So that's one thing I've done in this time period. Second thing that I look at, which always helps, is I relook at my morning routines. Not to say that I have to be up at a certain time, but how I'm spending that energy, because I've analysed for myself that by the time it gets to 12 o'clock, people can call me all day and the day's finished. But that morning time up until 9 and 10 is a really great time to do deep work. So I try to use that time period to kind of make big decisions on whether to go left, right, forward or back. And that's helped me a few times in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, awesome. Is there anything that you guys do that people can take away in terms of the decisions you've had to make? They're massive. What frameworks have you used, even if it's not a formal one?
So my framework for kind of partnerships and for decisions with Stemettes is we've got kind of core guiding principles across what we do and why we do it and how we do it. So even now with the online events, like there's a temptation, I mean, there's not, but it would be really easy for us to say we're just doing a load of courses online and we're delivering a load of content. And that's not really, we're not really about the knowledge necessarily. We're about perception, awareness, network, confidence. That's something we measure. That's how we measure our impact across everything we do. So as a business, as an organization, we've got those kind of guiding principles for measuring success. And so anything that we're doing, we have to make sure that we're optimizing it for the most success on those measures. And then the other thing is, in terms of partnerships, I think things have changed now where, you know, there's a lot of things that we look for in a partnership. Like we're quite protective of our brand and who we work with. And so normally, you know, you don't want anyone that's going to time suck on your time too much. You don't want anyone that's going to take a lot and kind of use the brand for a lot of things and then we don't really get anything in return. We don't want anyone that's going to sully it or dirty it in any way. So I think that's the other thing, is you almost need your own checklist of this is my line, and we can't cross, this is a line we can't cross, this is something we won't do. We won't do paid events for our main target audience. We won't do anything that's predominantly around boys. We won't do, like, there's a lot of things that we're like, that's a line that we won't cross. And that's something we won't try. In lockdown, goals have shifted a little bit more, where we know that it's going to be important to be visible and be seen in a lot of places. There's a lot of collabs that you might see us doing that we wouldn't normally do, because we don't normally have the time to do them. We don't normally want to do them. They don't help us with success. But at the moment, in going online and going virtual, there's a lot of those things that we can use to kind of learn things. So I think that's my kind of guiding principles is, you know, there's something that we know what it means as a team, that if something feels Stemet, and there's a lot of things that don't feel Stemet. And then the same with partners. But the only other thing I think that has come up now is kind of safeguarding and security, which I think was something that was always important for us. But now even more so when you're doing things online, like you're opening up people that were vulnerable anyway in such a big way.
Yeah.
And that's become the other kind of tool. We're like, is this going to endanger any of the girls? Not all of them, but is there a single girl that we know that we work with that would be endangered by us running on this platform, or would be endangered by us opening this up, or us sharing her story, or, you know, doing the gallery in this way, or reporting impact, or whatever it would be. So that's become the other kind of tool that we've got. But, you know, I'm like Bejay. I think I've written a blog post that's going to come out. I'm like Bejay till I die. This thing is like it. This is the framework. This is the plan. This is the structure. And now I'm in the house. I can't lose it because I'm here. I'm not losing. So, you know, thank God.
You both, Tim, Rachel.
Do you want to go, Rachel, and then I'll come after?
Sure. Yeah, so I can relate to a lot of what Anne-Marie said, down to like having a notebook. So I'm always there with my moleskin, my trusty moleskin. I've got like my Afrocenchix notepads, write down notes. And even so important, right? Even like the guiding principles thing is so key. So we have them literally printed on the wall in our office. Actually, this is the mad thing. We moved office the week before the lockdown was announced. And then that week I got sick. I was pretty sure I had COVID. And I'm usually like the positive, optimistic one. And I started like just taking it so seriously. Everyone in the team's like, what's up with Rachel? I was like, everyone's working from home. You're not getting on the tube. Stay at home. Just before I got sick, literally the day before my husband got sick. So I drove from our new office to the house. And then my husband's like, oh, I'm really sick. Don't think we can go out. Then we're home for a week. Then it broke. But just before that day, I was like, everyone take everything home. You're working from home. I'm not waiting for this government to tell us what to do. And that's because of the guiding principle that I need to always look after the team. Like the health and well-being of our community is at the core of everything we do. And that starts with the health and well-being of the team, right? Like as an employer, it's weird to say I'm an employer to me, but I want to make sure that my team are always healthy and safe. And then what we will have on the wall when we get to properly decorate our new office is our values. So things like excellence. So we want to be our best in everything we can do. Things like being natural. And that's not just, so being natural, it's not just the ingredients in the products, but it's about authenticity, bringing your whole self to work, being yourself, being real. That's really important to us. And in terms of making decisions, as Anne-Marie said, those things guide what you do. You have to like think about yourself holistically as a person and not try and fit into this idea of this is what a business person's like. So I'm a Christian. My primary thing is always going to be, I'm going to look in the Bible. I'm going to pray, right? I'm going to get advice and make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm bringing honor to God, and I'm like being loving and looking after people in any decision, right? So in fact, I just wrote this like time optimization article because people kept saying, how do you like have kids in a business? Most of people have kids in a business, but I wrote out some tips. I'll tweet it out again. Oh, I don't know, Bejay, where to put that. I'll just WhatsApp it to you.
I'll put it in my newsletter.
Very good article, by the way.
Thank you. I'm glad it was helpful. So in there, I actually referenced, I'll keep this brief, I talk too much, man, but I referenced a scripture, Philippians 4, which basically it's about anxiety, and you can summarize it down to when you're anxious, stop, don't like stay in a state of anxiety, but don't freak out about the fact you're anxious. Anxiety is normal. We wouldn't exist as humans if we didn't get anxious, but staying anxious is not wise. So don't stay in that state of anxiety, literally pray with thanksgiving. So I will write down, okay, I'm stressed about this big thing, but actually let me flip it. Let me look at what can I be thankful for? Well, it's a big opportunity. Like right now, our big thing is we don't have enough stock. We're changing that. We're like getting more stock out quickly. But that starts with, this is fantastic. Like we're selling so much that what we thought was 4 months of stock is basically gone. So that's a great problem, right? And then you're in a different mind frame because you're not thinking from a place of, oh, this is the problem. Oh no, what do I do? Woe is me. You're thinking from a, wow, I am so blessed. I've got so many good things. You're grateful. You're thinking in a positive way. And I think positive thinking goes so far to actually making things happen. But the only way you can do that is if you're on top of your time. If you optimize your time and you make sure that your time is working for you and you're not running around like a headless chicken, you can work in time to sit and think and pray and get advice and write things down. I used to just like, I think before I had kids, I was really bad with just letting people kind of take my time or feeling like I have to be at every meeting, I have to be at everything. If an investor says this, I have to go there. And now I'm learning, I think becoming a mother made me value my time more, which is super messed up. It shouldn't take becoming a mother to do that. But I realized that now if I'm like running around to go to an event, that's time away from my kids. That's not okay. But even just for yourself, like it's not right that you're exhausting yourself because you're doing a bunch of stuff. So for you to even have a framework, you need to first optimize your time, make sure you're on top of it and your time is working for you. So I love what you said, Bejay, about that morning routine. Is so essential. If I don't start my day with breakfast and prayer, reading my Bible and like hanging out with the kids, my day's going to be a wrap. I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, so for me, I wrote a couple of things down. So the question was about like mental frameworks and stuff that we use, right? So typically I'd say like before everything going on, it was like, the question that I always ask myself was like, what's going to get us to the next stage? What's going to get us to the next stage? And that informed like my hiring decisions, like which people I brought on, all that stuff. Increasingly, I've actually, I don't have my phone on me, but on my phone, I have like my background is like, it's basically a question I wrote on the Notes app, and it's basically my background. And it basically is like, will this piss me off? So it's basically the way I go about it is like, I make a decision now because there's so much uncertainty and stuff. I still make a decision now, not on what will get us to the next stage, because I just assume that the general dynamics will change. But like, if I don't make this decision, will this piss me off? So for example, there's this like absolutely like brilliant girl that we've just brought on. She'll be starting next month. And like, I dilly-dallied on that because I was like, man, you know, I'm still not quite sure, blah, blah, blah. And then I was talking to my girlfriend, and then she was basically like, right, if you don't bring on this girl, like you will be pissed off because you always think what would have happened, more would have happened. And even though she was quite expensive and stuff, I was like, cool, we're still going to do it. So that type of like framework I've thought to be massively important. And then the other framework is one which a lot of people know, the whole Pareto Principle thing. But it's actually so true right now at this time, because you're not in an office with everyone else. Like the company now is like, I don't know, I think probably like 35 people or something now. Like, because you're not in an office with everyone, like it forces you to think what actually matters. Like I have way less like meetings now with say my marketing team, because it's like, well, actually there were only a few things for us to discuss and then you guys just go ahead, right? Or my sales team, like there are some days where I wouldn't talk to anyone in the sales team, and then it would just be like, oh yeah, so this week we've done this. It's like, oh well, that's great. Because actually there's only a small number of inputs that you need to care about, and that has come about quite a lot during this period, and that's actually influenced a lot of stuff which I'm currently doing now, like whether it's looking at businesses to advise or to invest or anything like that. I'm always like because you can't control everything, what are the few things that you can control which would provide the biggest output? And that's been very, very useful. So those have been the two kind of like mental frameworks that I've used. Again, that Pareto principle, but then also like asking myself that question, like would this piss me off if I didn't do it? Rather than like, how do we do this? It's more like, would this piss me off? And then if I know it it will. If I know 2 months down the line, because I hadn't brought on this girl, or we hadn't launched this product, or we hadn't done this, or we hadn't done that, then I just do it. I'm just like, well, I'm sure that I'll figure it out anyway.
Thanks everyone for sharing that. That was super useful. I promised everyone it would be like an hour. Can't get through no more questions with people, but we will answer it in the post-event email. I'm going to send a feedback survey with a recording of this session where you guys can kind of take notes, and I'll send a note around to the panelists as well and get the references that they've mentioned. I think people already started to share Rachel's article in the comments. I'll make sure that's included as well. This was episode 1, so let me know any feedback for the next episode. We're live again next Tuesday at 6 p.m. I'm my own hat man, you know what I'm saying? It's my own show, so you know. Thank you for tuning in. That's it. You can sign up on it on my website, bjmulenga.com. Thanks to all the panelists. We have actually put a live link as well, where people were keeping notes of what you guys were saying, and I'll make sure that everyone's social media is on there as well. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great. Bye.
Bye all.
Yeah.